online and looking for you to put this into practice and feed back to us how well you've utilized it. So the first stage in the model is very, very simply to know your outcome. So this is about, you know, whether it's a 10-minute phone call or whether it's a meeting that you're putting together, whether it's a strategy for the organization or whatever. The key thing, first of all, is to ask yourself that question: what is it we're looking to get out of this situation in the first place? So it's a sense of knowing where you are going. That's the first stage. Okay. So the second stage is, what's quite interesting, I think, is that first part is something that we are quite used to doing, certainly in terms of organization. So setting goals, for example, SMART goals. I'm sure we're all used to using processes like that. But the second stage of the process is sometimes the bit that's missed. And for all of the people that we work with, when we're coaching them, I think the main reason that we find that people don't achieve their outcomes, their desired goals, is that they're not the right goals for them in the first place. So the essence of this second part, know your reasons why, is simply asking yourself, when you have set yourself a goal, an outcome, to ask yourself, what will it give me when I have achieved that outcome? And if you come up with lots of reasons and lots of answers to that question, then great, particularly if it's generating those internal kinesthetics, those feelings that are giving you that passion, that desire, that motivation. If you ask that question, what will this outcome give me when I've achieved it, and you ain't coming up with very much, maybe it's not the right goal for you in the first place. And there are all kinds of reasons why we sort of trick ourselves into giving ourselves, writing down these goals, these outcomes, in the belief that it's what we want, or perhaps we've been told to do it by somebody else. But unless we have those reasons, we don't get that motivation. So, you know, maybe the thing doesn't even get off the ground in the first place. So stage 3 then is what Tony Robbins calls take massive action. And this, again, not rocket science, but it is about doing something about it. Now, for example, I have a friend of mine who sets himself a goal seemingly every year, and it's some kind of vague goal about getting fit. And he thinks that the massive action that he needs to take, and you might be guessing this now, is to join a gym. And he is the best joiner of gyms that I know. He very rarely then follows through on the second part, which is actually attending the gym and doing something whilst there. So the essence of massive action is, if you are very clear on what the goal is, and you know that it's the right goal for you because of those reasons, then throw everything at it. If it's worthwhile, do everything it takes to achieve it. That's part of the essence of that. Another element of that is often to break it down and do something very quickly, and it may be something very simple just to get you started. So one of the things that Rita and I will often say to our coachees is, what's the first and most simple thing that you can do today to get started on that? Because often that sense of momentum is important just to get you through to those later stages. Now, stage 4, and this is where it gets really interesting, is about asking the question, is that massive action getting me closer towards my outcome or not? And again, in our experience, this is something that is often missed out, particularly in this day and age. And I don't just mean because of the COVID situation, but I think there seems to have certain patterns have evolved over the years where people are being busier and busier, and it's almost like we're on this treadmill at times. We have communication devices, for example, that allow us to be working 24 hours if we choose to. Maybe there is a culture of emails being replied to immediately, etc., etc. But we all appear to be rushing around, very busy. In other words, we're taking lots of massive action, but what we don't do enough of is to keep reflecting and stopping and asking that question, is the action that I'm planning to take today going to get me closer to my outcome or not? So this is really a call for doing more of that and using your sensory acuity to tune in and measuring and monitoring, etc. And that takes us on to the final stage, flexibility, adaptability, call it what you want, changing your approach. Now, this is very simply, when we've asked the question in Know What You Are Getting, is that massive action getting us closely to our outcome or not? If it isn't, then we change our approach. Now, again, that's something that's pretty obvious, but again, it's something that we often fail to do, and sometimes that's due to the belief that we have to do things in certain ways. So I think one of the key elements of the work that Rita and I do, and you'll see that reflected in this program, is to help you increase your flexibility by giving you lots of different ways, lots of different tools, techniques, practical solutions to things that will add to your considerable toolbox that I'm sure you have at the moment. Because certain styles, certain leadership styles, for example, will work in certain situations, but not all. So the more you are able to adapt, the more of your outcomes that you will achieve for yourself and your organization. So you will see as the program unfolds, we'll be sharing with you lots of those practical ways in which you can become more flexible. Now, the reason that it's called the Ultimate Success Formula is because if you think about it, if you are very clear on your outcome and you know it's the right outcome for you, and you throw everything at it and you keep checking whether that action is working, and you are prepared to repeatedly change your approach, then you will eventually find an approach that works. Now, what you may want to do, of course, is you may say, do you know what? I've tried so many different approaches, I'm going to forget that outcome. And that's fine too. That's always your choice. But if you go around that loop enough times, and that's why this is so significant, you will find a way that works. Now, I just want to add a couple final twists to this, and there are two things that make your massive action likely to be more successful. One of which is your ability to manage yourself, particularly your mood state. So we're going to spend quite a lot of time on the program teaching you some ways in which you can be at your best on a moment-by-moment basis. So managing yourself is key. And the other side that's important is your ability to build rapport and have that effective communication with other people. So again, these are two of the key aspects of the program that we're going to focus on, enabling you to make your massive action more successful. So, Rita, shall I leave that up for a while?
I think so. I know we have, we are now at 25 to the next hour, so time's run away with us again, so we'll get better at all this management. But I think it would be useful for those of you who have been able to stay with us, just to respond or react, or it's a very, I can't express how useful this model can be, and yet, like Kevin said, it's not rocket science. It can be very, very straightforward. It's just wondering, well, do I do all those 5 things, or do I miss one out? Has anyone got any just reflections, observations, as Kevin spoke us through that? It's Shell?
I think for me, it's going to be really helpful with my senior leadership team. I think we haven't been particularly kind of strategic in what we've done. We've been much more reactive hitherto. And one of the things that I wanted to do as the new CEO is kind of take us up to the next level, and using a very simple model like this to kind of go back to the basics of why are we doing what we're doing? Are we sure we're doing the right thing? And then how do we do it? Is going to be really powerful in that. Thank you.
And I think, Shell, just in the most simple things, in the beginning of the top end of the meeting, you know, what's our outcome? You know, at the end of this meeting, what do we want to have decided? We'll have done 1, 2, 3. Is a very useful framing for a meeting. Was it John who wanted to speak as well? Someone else?
I was just going to comment that, yeah, it's a wonderful sort of simple summary of other people that I've read. So know your outcome immediately makes me think of the 7 Habits by Stephen Covey again, of begin with the end in mind is one of the habits. And then know your reasons why is Simon, I never know how to say it, Sinek or Sinek?
Ooh,
is it Sinek or Sinek? I want a definitive answer. You don't know.
We don't do definitive answers. Haven't you noticed that yet, John?
No, I was getting that impression. And then the Take Massive Action is that Eat That Frog book, and I can't remember who wrote that one. But you know, they're all things I've heard in other places, but this is a wonderful sort of distillation of them down into one nice little diagram.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, it's all good project management, whatever you like to call it, but having just the 5 simple steps and wondering, am I missing something here? Anyone else want to comment? I think perhaps not, because the time's against us. It is an absolutely a fabulous tool. What we'll be doing moving on from here is just a little consolidation online. And we have been recording that last bit. So for people who have had to leave, we'll certainly be able to review that last bit again. And I would love you to wonder and ponder how you can utilise it. Just in the day-to-day, just notice those 5 steps. Like I said, people using it in meetings, people using it at the top end of a telephone call. Things, the key bits that people get caught up in is that they just work harder and harder in the action area. They think if I can work harder, I'll just put more effort in, I'm going to get there, instead of pausing and saying, wait a minute, if I keep doing the same thing, I might as well stop doing it. I stand more chance of getting there. It's just so powerful to realise and take that pause. So I think, Kevin, we just wanted to remind people what the next steps are, which they'll all get communication about again.
So there'll be a couple of online modules. One, as Rita said, will kind of consolidate some of the things we've covered today. The second one will be talking about PDP planning. So some of you, I'm sure, will have personal development plans in place. If you haven't, we've got some templates for you to think about using. So that's the 2 online, and then we'll be sharing the request for names for the 360 and sharing the self-assessment as well.
Okay, excellent. So if you've any more questions? Or is it time for us to all unmute, go on to the big gallery view, wave goodbye to each other until we see each other again in a fortnight, but we'll be in contact with further updates. So bye-bye for now.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.